Chickens, chicken coop mistakes that you do not want to make. My name is Lily with Holistic Homestead Life, and I'm going to show you two of my chicken coops, the bad decisions we made and what you should avoid. And I'm going to highlight some of the best things we've done at the end, because I really want to show you what you're getting into when you get into chickens or when you design certain things in your coop. Let's go inside. Welcome to the chateau. This is chateau number 1. There's a couple things that we did wrong that if I could do a do-over, I would do differently. Thing number 1 that I would do differently. So if you notice, there is a lot of chicken crap all over this board. You might be wondering, why is this board here? Well, if this board was not here, they would be projectile pooping onto that wall. And as you can tell, that wall has already been pooped on. When a chicken poops, it doesn't just go down, it can go out, and you don't want that on your wall. So mistake number 1 was placing the roosting bars too close to the wall. If I could do a do-over, I would definitely move them a lot forward. My coop is due for a cleaning. This is real life. This is what happens. Nice thing is we can come in with a shovel, push that, comes right down, and then we can scoop that out. Mistake number 2 is do not place your automatic chicken coop door opener underneath where they sleep and poop, because guess what happens? Yes, we have to cover up the button mechanisms or they're gonna poop all over them. Mistake number 3, we have these little shelves and little perches in different places. Chickens will try to climb on them, they will try to sleep on them, and they will poop on them. So avoid any unnecessary shelves or perches unless you want your chickens pooping on them. They just poop everywhere. That is just what chickens do. And as we turn around, I have this net situation up here, and I'm going to give you a better look in just a moment. But we did the same thing here. When we designed our nesting boxes, we were like, hey, let's have a shelf on top of the nesting boxes so we could store extra hay and things like that. Well, guess what? Chickens get in there, they poop in there, and then you have the worst mess you could imagine. And this is what I'm talking about. We built the nesting boxes down below, and we made this shelf right up here. It was a great idea in theory, but as a result, I had to get creative and hang netting to keep the little stinker bugs from getting up in there. The other, I guess, I wouldn't say mistake, but a necessary thing we did is we made a lot of nesting boxes. Sounds great, but the reality is they only use maybe 1, 2, or 4 nesting boxes, depending on how many chickens are in here. In fact, one of the things that I would recommend is if you do have nesting boxes that are lower to the ground like this, instead of a flat top, use some sort of a piece of tin, something slippery that they cannot perch on at a pretty steep angle, and create almost like a roof situation. Whatever you do, do not put the roosting bars over the nesting boxes, because poop goes down. You do not want that where they lay their eggs. You don't want that in any place that you might have to reach down or into. Now with coop number 1, there were a couple things that we did that were actually quite genius. Number 1, we used an old tough shed to convert it into a chicken coop, because a lot of the chicken coops that you see are really like small. They're like almost like a cage, and it's really hard to get in there and clean those things, and you'll hit your head. You have to clean them often, and they're just not comfortable. I've had a small coop, my very first coop ever, and the best thing you can do if you're getting into chickens is find an old shed of some sort and convert that shed into a chicken coop. Okay, this particular thing I am extremely excited about, because this is something that you should absolutely consider when you're designing your coop. So my husband is a genius, and what he did is he is an excavator. He digs holes and all that kind of stuff. So he dug down, and this could be done with a shovel if you had to, but he dug down at least like maybe 2 feet down into the ground before we built this kind of a netted enclosed situation. And then we used this very, like, I don't even know what you want to call it. It is not chicken coop wire. It is not something that you buy at the farm store. This is from the hardware section. I will post the name of what this is called when I ask him in, but we used this stuff. It comes in sheets on the wall for the cage portion, reinforced with 4x4s. It's on the outside, so predator, it runs into the structure. They can't push it in. And it's also fully lining the bottom 2 feet down, so no predator could ever dig in and get inside the coop. The benefit of this is we can leave town and we can shut our automatic coop door off, not allowing them into their fenced-in play area. And I call this maximum security. I can have my chickens in here for a couple nights, for a couple days. They'll have food and water, and they will be safe and secure, and no animal or predator can get in to get them. So it goes all the way down into the ground. It is extremely sturdy. And inside this maximum security play area, we have a dirty fancy mirror that I clean periodically, but we have this nice little spot for them to hang out in. There is, daylight, they're protected against the elements, and they just have a very secure run. Now, if you're planning on having more chickens, you can make it longer, but using this material and using sturdy construction is seriously the way to go because you have ultimate peace of mind. So this space is one of my favorite things about my coop. Highly recommend that when you design your chicken coop, you have your sturdy coop that does not hit your head, and then you have a main kind of a maximum security, and then you have what I call work release. And this is what I was referring to as work release. We have a tall fence that is taller than me. We have sturdy fence posts and wiring that will prevent a coyote or a dog from getting in here during daylight hours when we're home. Another thing that I absolutely love that we did when we designed our chicken coop is my husband made sure that we had a source of water right next to the coop, so that way if I have to get water to them in summer or winter, I have a frost-free water source, and in the summertime I can easily turn on some misters if it's too hot. It just makes life so much more convenient. And then there's this guy. So this thing here is where I keep all of my chicken feed. Having a secure water-proof space to keep feed is a must. So find something that you can easily put either inside the coop or outside the coop that does not allow water in, that you can quickly grab your scooper and refill their feeder. So that was coop number 1. So I'm standing next to the fenced-in area of coop number 2, and as you can see, all of my current freeloaders hanging out. Hi girls. I have about 20 something chickens in here. We never intended to have a chicken coop here. It just sort of happened. We planted a bunch of trees and we decided to fence them in because we have a deer situation. So as a result, all of our fencing is not super high. It's just enough to deter the deer, just enough to make it inconvenient for them to go in and get the trees. So just like on the other coop, I also have a bin where I keep all of my chicken treats and food and things like that. With chicken coop number 2, we did the same thing. We took an old tough shed and converted it. But one kind of an issue we ran into is it didn't have windows, and so there was not enough airflow. So we had to drill ventilation holes, and you need air coming in on one side and coming in on the other. So you want to consider, where does the breeze come in on your property, and you want to make sure it's something that you can control, so that you can cut that breeze down during the winter time to keep them warmer. The one major thing that we did in this coop, because we were trying to avoid having to scoop a lot of poop, is we actually took the floor out so their droppings can go onto the ground and not get caught up on the surface of the actual chicken coop floor. I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like it opens up the possibility to have critters come in. It's not as secure, and I'm considering it might not be the best win. We're still testing it out, so I'll let you guys make your own decisions. And we did attempt to remedy the situation over the nesting box. However, the one thing that I will say, as you can notice, the angle of this board is not slant enough. We would need to make sure it's just a little bit steeper. Otherwise, they will find a way to roost no matter what. We provided them no other places to, do this, but they will try to roost anywhere but on the actual roosting bars occasionally. And so here we obviously removed the flooring like I mentioned, which creates dirt, and we put straw and bark dust in there to mix with their manure, and then we can scoop this out into a wheelbarrow and put it in the compost bin. But as a result, it makes it possible for critters to crawl in. Not big critters, but I'm talking mice or rats or things like that. And of course, you still have to clean the floor because you still get chicken poop everywhere. They're just poopy girls. It's just what it is. The one thing we did differently in this coop is we did not provide as many nesting boxes. We do have a few less, and they still only use the bottom ones, and they only use a couple of them. So what did we do right with this coop? Well, number one, my favorite thing about this coop is the location. We're underneath a very shaded tree. It keeps the coop much cooler in the summertime. We also have a much larger play area for them than we do in that spot. The downside of this spot is we do not have a secure maximum kind of penitentiary area. So if there was ever a situation where I was raising chicks or I had a broody hen, I would have to move her into the other coop. So that's the perk of that, having two different spots. You know, I have that as my backup. The reason why we added this coop is because we had an opportunity to bring chickens into this large space to let them eat the bugs and fertilize the trees. And that has been fantastic. So having chickens in your orchard is definitely a plus. Other thing that I feel like everybody needs to have and consider getting is an automatic coop opener. So I've tried a few different coop openers. So far, this is my favorite budget coop opener. It works really well. It has a really good screen where you can actually see what time you're setting. The only thing to be aware of, and I'll show you, you want to make sure that the coop door is protected against rain. And what happens is when water runs off the roof and lands on here, it gets into this little slot where the door slides out. And if you get a freeze and this freezes, that door will not open. I think if you work it right, you can have a door that works rain or shine if you take good care of it. Check the batteries regularly. Always check your batteries before you get out of town, because the last thing you want to do is have your chickens be locked inside while you're out on vacation. There is so much more to keeping chickens and living holistically. If you want to learn more, watch this next video.